So we all know how, in the last little bit, the United States has been trying to rewrite what slavery was like. Yeah? Yeah. It wasn't that bad for them. They actually wanted to be kidnapped, taken from their home, and forced to work for the rest of their life on minimal food, minimal clothing, getting raped if they're female, getting raped if they're male. They wanted that. And they learned skills. Well, Poland's trying to do something similar. It wants to pretend that it didn't have anything to do with the concentration camp within its borders. Except, you know one thing about every concentration camp that's been turned into a museum? They all have letters from the locals complaining about the fact that the Jews were dying too loudly. So they want to criticize Israel for pointing out that you haven't actually done jack shit to solve your anti-Semitism problem. In fact, Polish MP, Poland is for Poles, not for Jews. You might want to tell everybody on social media, because they keep telling us to all go to your country, where we would be greeted with places like Auschwitz. And I know Poland wants to claim that, and yeah, they were invaded. They were. But this doesn't have anything to do with them being anti-Semitic and killing Jews when they were given the opportunity. I want you to just pause and read. Wow. It would appear that there has not been a time period where Poland didn't have its own pogroms. Because, in case you weren't paying attention, every country in Europe claimed that Jews were a foreign race coming to take over. Now, Islam, which is colonizing everywhere and openly stating it will have Sharia law everywhere, Sharia law, wherever it goes, wherever Muslims go, they are planning, openly stating that they will take over your country. Any laws you have now will be irrelevant because their law, haram, is all that will matter. Because it's all about Israel, right? We need to make them scared. Don't worry, most of us already are. Why? Because New York is doing shit like this. Pro-terrorists screaming genocidal chants right outside a synagogue. And what did the police do? Nothing. However, we're now supposed to accept the apology, since she's not paying attention to the fact that their new mayor-elect basically encouraged this because they were selling property in Israel at the synagogue. For those of us who are looking to escape, this is the reason why Israel must exist, because you don't want us in your countries, but you claim we don't have the right to our own country, which is basically you just saying you wanted us to just drop dead and be done with it. So I can't speak for the Jews of New York, but I can speak for the Jews of Canada, and this sort of shit, which is happening in Canada, isn't acceptable, and your apology is not accepted. And just to close it all off and make the point, Coast Guard says it will continue to allow a noose and a swastika to be considered hate symbols, as opposed to just instigating. Why did you even have to stop and think about that? A noose is a fairly common symbol to put up when you're indicating you want people of color dead. A swastika is very much an indication you want people of color dead. It's amazing. Whites managed to convince themselves that they were not a minority. It's one of the smallest groups on the planet to be Caucasian. And yet they managed to set the system up so beautifully that they have power everywhere, so they think they're a majority. Well, as I've pointed out over and over again, Islam now equals you in numbers, and Islam openly states we're going to keep breeding, we're making babies, you're not. So we'll outnumber you soon, we will be the majority. And then it doesn't matter if you don't want Sharia law. You're going to have it. Oh, right. What will happen then? Well, in Sweden, a 7-year-old girl was brought to the hospital covered in blood. Parents tried to claim that it was a bike accident. She was on her bicycle, she hurt herself. Except that's not what happened. No, in Sweden, this Muslim family was allowed to take their 7-year-old girl into a mosque where her genitals were mutilated.